and circle somewhere else. Shook the best when your love was on, storing up on your summer glow. You went in search of someone else. And I hear your ship is coming in. Your tears are sea for me to swim. And I hear a storm is coming in. My tears are all we've ever been. Caught the air in your golden mouth, leaving all of hearing how you went in search of someone else. I taught the hand that taught the bride, both our eyes locked to the tide. We went in circles somewhere else. And I hear the ship is coming in. Your tears are sea for me to swim. And I hear a storm is coming in. My tears are all we've ever been. Anchor, hard to be loved.
Right.
Hey, Kath.
Hey, Toni, and everyone else who's joining us. Welcome to the first Portal live stream.
So the portal live streams after this will probably have themes, and this one will have a bit of a theme too, but it's only appropriate for the first one that we do a little bit of why, because why is a question. It is the only question. Why is the only question? Why are we doing this? Why are we here? Why would we spend our time doing this? Why would we ask you to spend your time doing this? So today we'll do a little bit of the why and a little bit about this time of year because it is a real bottleneck. It's filled with grief, it's filled with celebration. It can be quite heavy, even if you're having a good time. As most things in life, it is a dialectic of the highs and the lows and the grieving that exists between those spaces. So, thank you for showing up to talk to Kath and I. And at the end, there will be an opportunity for questions. So either in the Q&A or the chat, you can ask questions. And at the end, we will have an opportunity to answer at least one, maybe two, and who knows, maybe more. So the portal, this online subscription that we've created, is an offering each month. It's an offering we created because there is no one answer. Because dogma is flawed, and if anyone tells you they know the answer, they're full of shit. So we have tried to create something that answers questions and is going to allow you to create a library of resources from month to month. I know that's what I need. It's what I've wanted when I think of helping people. It's what I think about. I think about give people all of the resources so that they can revisit and use the things when they need them and put other things on the shelf. Anything else you want to say about that, Kath? as far
No,
as
that we're
portals
just
go.
creating tools that we've been sharing with our students and our patients and our clients over the years. We've kind of gathered these tools and created all these methods that we use every day. And so these aren't tools that we're just giving you as like, oh, try this out. We know that these tools really do work. And so different movement practices and breath practices, call them as hokey as you want, but based on all of our evidence of seeing patients every week, we know that these are the things that actually do get people better. These daily tools are the things that change people's lives because they're real. They're not hokey.
Yeah, and this live stream is it's a great opportunity to let people ask questions. Kath and I have both been in practice we've each been working with people, treating them or caring for them in some capacity for 20 years. And the number one thing that we hear is, why didn't anyone tell me that?
Mm-hmm.
Or nobody listened to me.
Mm-hmm.
We often hear you're the first people that listen. So this live portion of the portal, although we can't always give folks individual attention, it's a really nice place to say, we know this is an online forum. It's not an in-person touch, but it is a place where you can ask questions or, sort of try to collect information to help you better navigate, whether it's the tools we've given you or something that you're just curious about. I'm not going to say that we have all the answers. We're going to have a lot of I don't knows, but collectively, if you've got it, we've treated it. And, I should be quite clear. I know there are people suffering with all sorts of pain and all sorts of pathology. So we certainly are functional medicine. These are the tools to improve quality of life, to give you back access to living and doing and being with the people you love. So, if you have terminal illness, these are great tools to support you. We are in no way a replacement for any other medicine, which, we gotta say, but it's true. So we hope that folks will engage in this platform and will engage on our social media, because the number one thing I think that gives people access to themselves is someone to ask questions to. We don't want to blow you off.
Also, the
So
questions that you provide us with in here and on social media are also the questions that will help us sculpt different topics, different things that we'll provide in terms of videos and exercises and workouts, but also conversations that we'll have in this live stream every month. So most of the time, questions that people have, other people have that question as well, as you know, and you learn in school all the time. And people tend to, even though people are dealing with different situations, different symptoms, oftentimes people's big picture questions are the things that aren't getting answered by their providers. So those big picture questions will be things that we will bring to the table and hear, and you'll get to hear our perspective, and hopefully, there'll be valuable insight for everybody, whether you're dealing with something that's a little bit more medical or you're dealing with something that is a little bit more psychosocial, or something that's just a pain that you've been dealing with and can't quite figure out the source of it.
Kath, that makes me think, even a couple of friends of mine recently, we were sitting and we were, having tea. It was the middle of the day. And one of my friends, I think I don't know, she's in her early 50s. I think she's 51, but she was talking about her incontinence, about her stress incontinence and how she's peeing her pants all the time. And I was like, I'm not going to blow up her spot here on the Zoom, but we'll call her Joan. And I was like, Joan, what are you talking about? This is what I do. This is what we do every day. Why wouldn't you come into the office? And she was like, no, this is just what happens to us. This is probably the other most common thing that we hear, is where people are like, no, it's normal. So it's normal to be in pain. It's normal to pee your pants. It's normal to lose your libido. This list could go on and on. So maybe it would be helpful if we each just gave like a couple of lines, like, what do we treat? Why do we treat people?
Yeah, for
I can do
sure.
that first. So if you guys have signed up for the portal, then you've read some of our content, or maybe you're a patient of ours, or maybe you saw us on some form of social media. But clearly and plainly, I've been practicing Chinese medicine for 15 years. I treat people at the end of their rope. I treat the people that have been told no by everybody else. That's not to say I don't treat people that haven't injured themselves at CrossFit, or people that aren't having period cramps, or people that are just like, newly diagnosed with anxiety or depression. But 9 times out of 10, at this stage of my career, I am seeing the person that says, everyone told me that I didn't make sense and that this is just the way my life is going to be. And I'm not going to say that I've helped every single one of these people, but I do want to say Chinese medicine and Western medicine, they are not different. They are just different tools. They are treating the same things. So, what I commonly end up seeing as an acupuncturist that has a reputation for being very good at my job is I end up seeing a lot of autoimmune disorders. I end up seeing a lot of women's health disorders because, as we know, women's health has been subjugated into the file of hysterical or, you know, deal with it. This is just the way life is. You either have to live in pain or you have to feel ill, or menopause is just something that happens to you. So there's no point in trying to fix your symptoms. I am also a person that specializes in neurologic disorders, pain that no one can really figure out the how and why. So they've been shifted from, neurologist to orthopedist to who knows who. So people often think of acupuncture and they think of maybe sports medicine. There are a lot of people that think of sports medicine. There are a lot of people that think of relaxation, but really we are treating complex disorders that take into account your history as a person and also the social context in which we live. So I could go into that, but that's an hour lecture in and of itself. So that's why I'm here. It's because I'm here to solve complicated problems and answer questions, and also to say, I don't know, but I'll think about it when people ask questions I'm unsure about.
Cool. Yeah, Toni and I have a very similar, people are drawn to us for very similar reasons. My background is actually in yoga. I was a yoga instructor for about 15 years. And in that period of time, I had children and I went back to PT school. I wasn't really sure why I went to PT school. I just figured it was something that would be a good career move for me. And it was really like after having my kids that my body was just like rocked. My psycho-emotional state was just rocked. And I selfishly just wanted to find all the answers for myself. Like, why am I broken? What the fuck is wrong with me? What's going on? And so I started taking like every course known to man. I took every single course you could possibly imagine while I was in school, after school. And it really led me into pelvic health, which I found was not really just about the genitals, but was really about this link from the sort of most primitive aspects of who we are to how we experience the world. So this really holistic sort of gateway the pelvic floor is in the end. So while I do focus a lot on all the things that happen specifically around the pelvic floor, it's really so that we can have a deeper understanding of ourselves, because the most early things that we learn as autonomous beings is how to go to the bathroom. So when we lose that ability to toilet ourselves appropriately, our sense of self-worth and self-dignity are completely out the window. We're just living in a state of shame, and we're so afraid, of everything. Like, what's going to happen when I walk out the door? What's going to happen if I can't find a bathroom? And so that sort of idea of helping people in their states where they are feeling the most desperate is sort of where I come in, because people really have never been able to openly or safely talk about these experiences. And so whether it's pelvic floor or elbows or whatever, by giving people the space to listen, or rather to talk, and then we listen, we're able to help them in ways that they've never been helped before. And so pelvic health is really my specialty, but more of a holistic physical therapist. And truly, I'm just working at the level of the nervous system all the time. The barriers to health are not as structural as the Western medicine identifies them as. There's usually much broader components. And so because of that idea, I'm able to work from a much bigger picture. And so the treatment methods tend to be a lot simpler than people expect. And I think the joy that they get when they come into our office and work with us is that the work that they have to do is not as terrifying as they thought it would be, and that's why I love all of these classes and courses and breath work and yoga teaching is because all of these things really do play a major role in treatment. And they're not the only thing. Certainly some people need medicine, right? They need pharmaceuticals, but they can also be working on their breathing and their posture in order to improve their confidence, you know? So I'm ranting a little bit, but anyways,
No, I
that's
love the rant. I love the rant, and actually, I was like, there's a place I'm gonna go with this, but I know this is a live talk. No one can stop me.
no one's stopping you. I can stop you. The clock can
No
stop.
one can stop me. Sam will have to cut my video. But one thing I didn't say is that my background is in social work, which only is to say that one of the places I often find myself meeting people with is, like how are you feeling when this is happening, or where are you feeling this in your body? Because although structurally we want to address the reasons why there is pain, this
When we say structure, by the way, just to
yeah.
make it really clear, we're referring to anatomy. So like if your knee hurts, right, is it just because there's a tendon that's broken or something like that? Or if your back hurts, is it a disc, right? We're saying that structurally is not, the structure doesn't always identify the symptom. Anyway.
And when Kathleen and I are looking at the structure of the body in the anatomy, the place where we are really going to differ from most traditional ways of looking at pain is we're going to look at your knee, figure out what is injured, and then we're going to look at the rest of your body, including the ways you're moving, the ways you're standing, the ways you're sleeping, eating, so on and so forth, because pain almost never exists as a singular object. It is a mosaic of our posture and our stress and our sleep and so on and so forth. So lots of detailed rants to come on that. But the thing I was going to come back to, this is already fun also. Thanks, Kath. That was good. is
I'm slicing my leg open with my hand right now.
just take it off, put on that pink couch behind you. So is this idea of shame. And I guess I want to take a special caveat to talk about shame because shame actually has been such a topic for Kathleen and I as we not only do our work with people, but as we work on ourselves to become not just better providers, but better friends, better mothers, better partners, just better people. And so many people that we work with, shame is just such an undercurrent in our society. And one of the points of the portal is that even though it is online, our hope is that this is some sort of community. Because my belief is that so much of our shame exists because in an individualistic society, when we are quote unquote responsible for our health and for the types of people we become, and we're not seen as part of a larger unit, all of our failings fall on us. And that's when we start to see self sabotage and perfectionism and all of the other parts of shame that are sort of easier to identify and talk about. Um, and I don't know that I really have a point other than I really feel like this live talk that we're going to do from month to month, one of the promises I've made myself is that I'm not going to get on and just rant. I'm going to be a little vulnerable because also Kathleen and I are people that everyone assumes are always eating perfectly and are never, that I never yell at my kid or that I'm always nice to my partner. And we are just human
Things
beings.
like this don't make us uncomfortable.
Yeah, that things like this don't make us feel tons of shame. And I guess the larger point of that is that as difficult as it is, we're all dealing with it in some way. And that's the other reason why we've created this, because we want there to be a place for people to gather, even if it is online, for people to be heard, and for people to observe people that are doing this kind of work and are very well versed in it. Say, you know what? I have all these tools and I still kind of felt like crap this month. I still got sick. Or I've been doing yoga for 20 years and my hip is still wonky, because we are not looking for perfection. This is not Instagram perfection. There's no such thing. There is no one exercise There is no one breath technique that is going to magically change your life. And I know I've already said this a couple times, but the holidays for me, this is our December live. Not only does it bring up shame, but it brings up grief and isolation and alienation. And there are some hopeful things in there. My hope for a better 2024 and the ways that I can improve. And I don't know. Now I've gone in just like a rambly place, but
But I think something that we can kind of use as a segue though into this idea of like this like new year or this new platform that we've created or this sort of like changes that we want to make in the new year without going into resolutions. But this last week of the year is often this kind of like crescendo, right? We kind of go big or go home, or we don't do a whole lot, but most of the time we're kind of eating a little bit more, not really sure what day it is, with the idea that starting December, or what is it, January 1, we're going to make these big changes, right? And then shame comes immediately because those changes, they don't happen, right? So it's like, I'm going to eat all the cheese for a week before the new year, and then come New Year's, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to make all these changes. And so then we create this, this idea that something's going to change, and then we just feel and experience like incredible amounts of shame. And something that like Toni and I were kind of talking about as we were planning this is this idea of creating small change for ourselves, and how that's something that is not easy to do. Our way of operating is not so much that we watch too much TV or eat not well. We tend to kind of fall into the hustle shame pattern where you don't feel like you're doing enough, so you do more. And part of this whole platform was that we're going to expose ourselves a little bit more and be a little bit vulnerable and share this messaging that we've been sharing with our patients behind closed doors, and share it with more people. And so I don't know, we could talk a little bit more, Toni, about like small changes, maybe small changes we want to make ourselves, or like suggestions that we have for people that are viewing.
yeah. Oh, I mean, that is a small question and a really big question, right? I'm
Well, I
like,
put it back on you. I don't want it. Balls in your court.
like, no, it's the new year. How are you gonna fix that attitude? No, I'm
One
just
of those like
well, okay. So here's the thing: it is inevitable that we will fail. Right? I think that that's important for me, first and foremost, because I'm so uncomfortable with sharing. And Kathleen sort of said this. She was saying that, our shame, our spiral is hyper productivity. I am not worthy. I am not good enough. I will never be the person I thought I would be by this point in my life. So instead of sleeping or eating food or taking care of myself, I'm going to work and work and work and do more and add things. So my small thing is, twofold. It is one that when I feel tired and this is no small feat. When I feel tired or when I need rest, instead of feeling like, "Oh, you're not a superhuman, so therefore you are nothing," that I'm going to be compassionate with myself, right? To be like, how would I talk to my dearest friend? How would I talk to Kathleen? How would I talk to my child? I wouldn't say, why are you laying down after working and doing the holidays and so on and so forth. I wouldn't like call them a lazy piece of crap, but that is what the voice in my head says sometimes. So my small change is truly to try and have a little compassion and to stop beating myself up. And the ways that I'm going to try to do this in the new year. Are you interested in this? Do you want to hear this?
I'm so interested.
It's not that
It's with bone broth.
that's the thing. Everything we're going to tell you is uninteresting because it's like the things you've heard, but they are about practice. Um, but it is like I don't even want to talk about it because it's so basic. See, there's the shame. It's coming out of me already. Like I want to judge
Let her
myself.
rip. Let her rip.
I need to start keeping a journal. I know that doesn't work for everyone, but I have to do it. If I am not consciously letting myself have a free write, or maybe let's be quite honest, it's not always a journal. I am a big fan of screaming in the car. Like, I don't know that it's the most compassionate thing, but I talk about it a lot in the treatment room. I'm always like, "Hey, have you ever considered screaming in the car?" I would like to, before I get to that point, I would like to have had moments of like
Mm.
conscious sitting with my feelings. I don't want to push them away. I don't want to turn them into work. I am going to attempt with great care to not let them sit on me as shame, but I want to feel. And for me, because I have a hard time with that, actually, for as sensitive as I am, a journal gives me access to that. So for the next month, I am planning on once a day trying to have a free write. I don't plan on rereading it. I don't plan on revisiting it, but I need a place where I can essentially vomit out all of the things I'm pretending don't exist the rest of the time. So that is my one small practice. And then, there's all the other stuff on the portal that are the practices I come in and out of, and breath work, movement, so on and so forth. But really the thing for me, although I'm saying journaling, it is to feel my feelings. And when they feel shameful or ugly or gross, instead of trying to push them away or judge them, is to try to sit with that, to
Mhm.
observe it. 'Cause that's what
That's
I've
good.
not been doing, and it's kind of making me a little batty. How
Yeah.
about
We're gonna make you real accountable now. I
I
think we're
will
done here. I hope everyone had a great time.
I will be reading at the next combo, I will be reading out loud my free write about my feelings.
You guys, let's all go to the open mic night and Toni can read her journal. It'd be great. So for me, my biggest like way of like obviously work is I overwork out. But my biggest thing is that like I sort of battle myself into not eating, right? So I won't eat food all day long, and then I eat plenty of food sometimes. But I have decided that I am going to bring a lunch, and you guys can hold me accountable to this, and I'm going to eat lunch every single day because I normally don't. I eat breakfast and then I eat whatever random snacks I might find. Sometimes I'll eat candy, sometimes I'll eat gum, sometimes I'll eat nothing. And then I'll kind of come home and I'm frantic and I'm crazy and I will eventually eat something or shovel something back. But I am like going to like intentionally start eating like a midday meal. And I'm not going to feel bad about myself. I'm not weak because I need to eat. I'm not pathetic that I need sustenance. Um, it's okay if I feel a little bit bloated or gassy at work. Like,
People are gassy. People
and
fart.
it's healthy.
They
It's the
fart.
parasympathetic nervous system, right? It's like its digestion is happening. But like for me, like I just like I'm gonna cry. Like I'm going to allow myself to eat a lunch. Like that's it.
Yeah. The way I feel about gas is the way I feel about feelings, actually, not to make it about me. But when people are in the treatment room, there's something that folks always say, like people, when they're being heard, will inevitably start to feel because there is a safe place. And they'll often cry and they'll say, I don't know why I'm crying. And I'm like, I'm not afraid of people that feel.
Yeah, let
I'm
it rip.
far more concerned when people feel apathetic. Like
Mhm.
have a full feeling, there's space for it, and whatever else gets said. But I feel the same way about gas. Like I don't know. We're gonna have to maybe for the next live talk, we could find some studies on like what has happened to the human GI in the last like 20 years from people holding in farts. Because I know they exist. There's a million of them, but I'm not gonna like pull fake statistics while we're
Actually,
in this.
my most constipated patients don't fart. And
Yeah.
like when I like if I travel and I don't poop like in a day, and like I bring a whole like bag of shit to help me shit. But like if I'm not farting, like that's the scariest, right? That parasympathetic nervous system is not working. I really would be so fascinated. And I also would be really fascinated into hiccups.
Yeah. Guys, in Chinese medicine, there are two, like these, like if you know anything about Chinese herbs, then you will know these. These are like pretty standard TCM, everybody learns them formulas, but it's Xiao Chai Hutang and Da Cheng Qitang. And like the only contraindication is like if you give one, the first one, Xiao means little, Xiao Chai Hutang, and they don't fart, if there's no farting, if nothing happens, then you worry about a bowel obstruction. Like we're that's when we
Wow.
start to get nervous. So,
Yeah.
like straight up contraindication in big red print is like if you don't fart, you're in trouble.
We should
So
just start farting and burping around the office.
I think
Like a,
three
like you're on a
people just left
subway.
the chat. I think three people just left the chat. Um, yeah, we'll definitely be doing some like flatulence based peer reviewed study live talk specifics on the
All
G.
about it.
I mean, it's the holidays. If you're not a little gassy or having some sort of GI disorder, I don't know.
You need to come and see us or see a pelvic floor PT because you are
Right.
severely constipated.
We're worried that you're having a bowel obstruction.
Get disimpacted.
I think we have to move away from farting for the sake of our
Okay, that's fine.
careers in this
That's fine. We've
exciting
lost
slide.
everybody now. Is this stand-up comedy or is this health?
But shh.
That was our vulnerability moment of the day. Good.
To talk
Do
about.
something bad to ourselves.
Well, I guess okay, there's one other thing that I want to talk about it because you kind of touched on, and that is movement. And I know not everybody is able to move or over move, but I share this pattern with Kathleen where I over work out. And I will throw everything I have into, my movement du jour, and I will become great at that thing. And the one thing I have really let go this year is worrying about recovery. Like I've been really focused on lifting weights and lifting heavier and going harder. And I've seen amazing things. I've set amazing things. I've set goals for myself. I have surpassed them. And what I've noticed is I don't necessarily feel better because my impulse to do more and to sort of self-sacrifice and allow my body to like go through entropy um is starting to create problems. So in this new year, I'm also focused on not rest. Rest is great. We all need like a lay on the couch in your pajamas and do nothing else day or 4 or 5, like whatever you need, great. I need those too. But I need to start actually recovering, which means I need more protein. I probably need more calories. And for me, I definitely need more carbs. We can do I'm going to call it an episode. We can do an episode on this, but actually, women need far more carbohydrates than men, or I will say the estrogen dominant bodies that are estrogen dominant need carbohydrates to keep our hormones cycling and on point. So I need to eat more, probably a little better, but I need to eat more. And I need to be doing things like active mobility. I need to make sure I'm doing, and we'll talk about all this in the future. So if you don't know what something means, you can ask or rest assured it's going to be in the portal. Hydration's huge. Like Kathleen doesn't eat during the day. I don't drink water. I'll notice that I've gone 8 hours and I'm wondering why my lips are chapped and I have a headache and I'm cranky and it's because I didn't drink any water. So, just recovering after workouts, recovering after work, eating, drinking, stretching, breath work, legs up the wall. I don't have to do them all, but I have to do something. Definitely eat and drink water.
And those are a lot of the tools that we'll be providing will be different recovery tools. And then in terms of like diet and eating and all of that that comes with recovery, those are topics that we will absolutely cover like in depth in terms of like what does a recovery mean from working out? Like what kind of things do we need to be nourishing our bodies with? And certainly we'll bring some experts on to help us with
Yeah,
that.
I want people to
More and
keep
more
their
science.
eyes peeled for we're gonna bring on well, I won't say it now because I think I know who it's gonna be, but we are certainly going to have a bunch of information for folks to figure out how to work out with their hormone cycling.
Mhm.
And we're gonna do this for all sorts of bodies. Um, and we don't need to get into it now because that's a rant that we could do 3 hours on just hormones and whatever productivity in the body, we'll call it. But those resources will be coming along with just
Mhm.
how to recover, how to take care of yourself. And then there'll also be things about just like, how to get strong, how to recover from injury, how to sleep better. This year, Kathleen also added, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think the title is that she became certified as a sexuality counselor,
Mhm.
which we haven't talked too much about that. We don't need to get into it now, but the ways that I use libidinal in a very broad sense. So I don't always think of my libido as just the way that like I am or not able to relate to people as far as my sex life goes, but I think of my libido as the thing that gives me access to kind of like joy and adventure and excitement in a bunch of ways. And I can't wait to see what kind of tools you come out with for that.
Yeah, like eroticism and all that stuff for sure. Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm excited to dig into a little bit more because people's perspective on sexuality tends to be very binary, very linear, very simple, and again, such a source of so much shame for people. because we sort of have this one idea of what sexuality is supposed to be like. And so diving into a little bit more of sort of the bigger picture and the broader scope around sexuality can be super fun. And we'll get into that. All the topics, so much to share.
So, Kath, what do you like? What are is there one thing in the portal you're most excited to share, like a type of thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. So, like I said before, I've been a yoga teacher for 15 years. I've taught probably every teacher in Buffalo at some capacity, right? I've led many trainings, many workshops, and it's a part of my life that after the pandemic and then just a lot of changes in my personal life and the growth of the business, that it sort of got compartmentalized into a really small part of my life to the point where I closed a yoga studio down. And the portal is actually a way for me to start to explore that aspect of myself a little bit more, to begin to teach. I know that there's a lot of people that have missed my classes and would like to take my classes, and just unfortunately doesn't work with my lifestyle right now to be teaching in person, but to be able to offer yoga and to like bring it back into my life is something that I'm really, really looking forward to. What
Can
about
I
you, Tone?
can
Yeah.
I talk about your yoga?
Can you tell me about my yoga? Sure.
No, can I just talk about it?
Oh, you could talk about my yoga. Yeah.
Because I feel like there might be some people watching this that are like, "Oh, I know yoga," or "Oh, I already take yoga in Buffalo," or I don't know. Like your yoga is one of the ways that I fell in love with you.
Aw.
Because I think like yoga in America and the yoga that I have been exposed to has been a very particular sort and type of yoga. And one of the things that I think it often lacks is or maybe not what it lacks, or one thing that it really engages in is like this very American way of like pushing forward to achieve a pose or to progress. And the first time Kathleen and I really ever got to hang out was in her studio, and there were all these people that were telling me how incredible she was. And the thing that Kathleen really did, and I just felt so in love with it. It was one of the reasons I was like, "Who's this brilliant creature?" Is she really explained not only intention, but the integrity of a pose and what that could look like and feel like and be in different bodies. So it wasn't you have to look like this and move like this in order to do yoga. It was the intention of the pose is to get your body towards this type of movement, and what it could mean for you is A, B, C, and D. But also, you were like, there is actually a correct way to do this without injuring yourself. And there are ways to do it where you are setting yourself up for injury. And I don't think that happens almost ever. I mean, I've been to hundreds and hundreds of yoga classes in my life. And really, I can think of maybe one other teacher, maybe two. And I'm talking about over,
Mhm.
from puberty to menopause. Um, so, whatever. I'm not gonna tell people about your teaching style. They can participate on their own, but I will say from my end, that is the thing that makes Kathleen's yoga so good and so different, is that she
Mm.
isn't teaching yoga, she's teaching you how your body works. And I think that that is incredible. Like, there's nothing I find more fascinating in this world than someone being good enough at what they do to be like, "Nope, particularly this thing, and I understand enough about bodies and human beings that, like, this can work for people that, can do the pose as is." I don't know how the yogis talk about it, but, like, as it's written or as it is adapted, you can still find the integrity, and I think that's chef's kiss.
Oh, thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Tom. What
no,
about you? What are you excited about for the portal?
none, no. Um, you know, I'm excited to have a place to rant. I am. Like, I think this is my gift. I think my gift is that I am able to see through bullshit. I'm excited to answer questions for people. I'm excited to be like, "No, actually, you don't need to detox your liver because your liver can't be detoxed." this is how you treat your liver well so that it can function optimally. Or no, you don't have to always be in pain because of this particular issue that you have. You may experience pain, but you don't have to stay there. And this is particularly why. So there's not one thing I'm excited to teach. My background's quite different from yours. I'm not a PT, I'm not a yogi, so I don't have these like necessarily. I mean, I have a lot of tools I can hand people. I have qigong and tai chi and some functional movement and some postural alignment, but the thing that I'm most excited about is that I want to help people find things that actually work so that they're not spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on supplements that do nothing, that they're not being scammed by people on the internet, that they have a place to ask questions. I mean,
Mhm.
I love nothing else in the world than when someone comes into me and they're like, here's what this person wants me to buy. And I'm like, absolutely not. Let's teach you how to stand. Let's teach you how your feet work, or like whatever the thing is. Like, I'm excited to call out the bullshit. That's what
Yeah,
I like.
I
That's
love
what
it.
I do. That's
Yeah.
what I like. That's what I do. I also wanna create a space to, like, I don't know, like, address the sort of, like, unspoken familiar territory that we're all experiencing,
Yeah.
Like, I wanna talk to new moms about all the hard parts that
Mhm.
coexist with all the good parts.
Mhm.
And I wanna talk to the women in menopause that are being gaslit about their symptoms.
Mhm.
And I wanna talk to young women that doctors are blowing off and not giving the respect they deserve. And although I get to do that in clinic, I see, people come in for an hour, they're there and they leave. And I think this is a way to, even if we can just spark a couple of questions or a little bit of like, actually, no, you didn't do your job, when they're not being treated
Mhm.
well or receiving the care they need. Like, I want to spark people's rebellious spirit when it comes to caring for themselves and advocating for themselves. And if we can give them information, they can do that. If you don't know
Yeah.
there's an option, you can't advocate for yourself. And then
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
believe that you deserve or you have to live in pain, whatever that pain is, whether it's social,
Mhm.
cultural, physical, whatever.
Yes, this is seriously fucking rebellious work here, everybody. Seriously.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things we talk about most, right? Like, the reasons why we have thriving practices are because we are willing to say, like, actually you're receiving substandard care, or what I'm doing isn't helping you. Here's who I'm going to refer you to. Like, this shouldn't be you shouldn't be receiving care from an ego epicenter, because then everybody loses.
Exactly.
I'm going to check our questions.
Okay.
Sam said she was going to send them over around now. Let me see if we have one. Um, so give me 1 second. All right. So, Kathleen, what are like the two most common things that you see in the clinic?
The two most common things that I see. Well, I do see a lot of prevention. So I do work with a lot of people that are pregnant and they want to prevent any issues. Sometimes it's their first pregnancy, sometimes it's their um second, third pregnancy, and they want to like have a better postpartum success. They want to understand their body a little bit more. So that's one of the biggest things that I treat. And then I also treat a lot of pain. So pain in just about anywhere. A lot of people come to me because of like pelvic pain, that sort of they're at the end of their rope. They've gone to see a million different people, or like lower abdominal pain, pelvis pain, tailbone pain, scrotal pain, hernia like pain. So a lot of pain in the abdomen and the pelvis. And that source of pain can be so many different things. It could be a lifelong of terrible breathing patterns or constipation. So in terms of like the cause, that's all over the place, but definitely a lot of like pelvic variations of pelvic and like hip and lower back pain, and a lot of prevention work would be my biggest things. What about you,
Uh,
Tom?
I mean, I truly see everything, and I certainly see a lot of pain. Besides that, I see tons of, I mean, this falls into pain, but it's a bit more specific. Um, I mean, and that's sort of how we've come together, but women's health and
Mhm.
pelvic pain, pain with periods and endometriosis. But the other thing I see a ton of is I've sort of made a name for myself in the neurologic migraine world. So I see tons of headaches that are being managed with pharmaceuticals and just aren't really getting people to where they need to be. I love them. They're my favorite thing. I'm not going to say they're easy, like they take work, but I do this treatment that if you've been a patient of mine, you're familiar with. It's called chasing the headache. Like, I love nothing more than when someone walks in and they're like, this is it. This is the headache I live with all the time. And I'm like, give me 15 minutes. We're going to change where it is or the severity. And then it changes. And I'm like, okay, then the fun part comes, right? We get to like do the math on how to totally get rid of it. Um, I think I like it because it's just something like in the room. I can be like, we're changing this now, immediately. You can do that with pain in other parts of the body too, but this like unrelenting sort of like
Mhm.
brain clamp pain. Um, but I guess when you were talking, even though they asked you a question and now I'm answering it with another question, but one of the things Kathleen and I do together a lot, I mean, we often co-treat, we'll like not only trade patients back and forth, but we're trying to just make sure we're forming a plan that works for everyone. But we do a lot of labor prep. And if you haven't seen it, we do, I think that's the workshop that's up on the portal. It's a labor prep, or is it just the prep?
It's really like the pelvic floor and pregnancy. And again, like I said, the pelvic floor is just a gateway to all the other stuff. So it's a bit of we don't really quite get into the labor prep, a little bit of it, but it's more of an overview
Yeah.
of prenatal care and all the information that you need to know in regards to the pelvic floor to add to all
Yeah.
the other information you're getting from your provider.
But Kathleen and I do a lot of that. We often will see our pregnant patients and our postpartum patients kind of like hand in hand. The Chinese medicine piece, obviously I'm not teaching folks to push and prepping their pelvic floor. We do more nervous system work, making sure there's this concept in Chinese medicine. It's called blood vacuity. So, or blood stagnation, which is just essentially determining um, how how the muscles of the pelvic floor either are or are not getting proper circulation, and there are trigger points and things like this, so it really folds into Kathleen's work. But more, I would say, since Kathleen's so good at that, I end up doing nervous system work, which is
Mhm.
huge. I was a doula for years and years, and when I became an acupuncturist, people would be like, "Are you still doing doula work?" And I was like, not really." But every once in a while, I would get called in because there are points in the system that I study that are for like induction and moving labor along. And so I would get called in when I first started practicing and I had more time. Folks would call me in and they would say, labor stalled. Is there anything you can do before we, go to Cervidil or Pitocin or, something to try to like medically induce progress? And 9 times out of 10, I would walk into a hospital room or a house or a birthing center, and it would be a woman whose labor was stalled, and there would be every light in the house was on, and her mother-in-law would be, like, trying to feed her honey sticks, and her husband be rubbing her back, and someone else would be playing music from their phone. 9 times out of 10, I would just be like, "You gotta get all these people out of here. I'll kick them out." And you kick those people out, you get the person breathing. I almost never used needles on someone in active labor. It just wasn't necessary. You didn't have to, you know?
Okay.
Um,
So
let's see.
we did get one more question, Tone. I'm going to read
Ooh,
that.
what
And
is
I'll
it?
start and then I'll let you answer it too. So it's how do you each like to address anxiety or mental side of pain, duress, and treatment and in life? So for me, my process is to kind of meet the patient where they are. So if somebody is like in debilitating pain, can't walk, right? We find the position that they're comfortable in. So is it on their side? Is it on their stomach with pillows? Is it on their back? Is it in a chair? We start there and then we introduce breath, right? So we start to bring the nervous system in. So we start to increase the length of the exhales in relation to the inhales. We start to kind of quiet the nervous system a little bit. So, and then we progress. Then we start to add movement, we add variations. And sometimes that takes several visits, right? Sometimes day one is my hands on their stomach or their back and cueing breath. And then after some time, pain starts to go down. And then we progress to different movements like that. And the goal really is to address the fact that the pain is not necessarily, because patients are always going to come in and they're always going to think that the pain is so severe. So something must be so bad. It must be so much worse because I had this back pain, but now this back pain is, I can't walk. So they're going to assume it's structure. So this is where we talk about how structure is not always proportional to like the response in the body. So my assumption is always that the nervous system is in like a fire alarm mode, right? Everything is high alarm. It's trying to protect you. The nervous system is always trying to protect. So my goal is to, however I can positionally and with movement, and breath is movement, right? It's a movement of the body, to start to dial down that response. We dial down that response. We dial down that response. Sometimes it takes a few visits. Sometimes it takes a lot of visits. And then ultimately we start to restore function so that the thing that caused the pain isn't causing pain anymore. So for me, I'm using the physical body always to start to quiet down the nervous system's psycho-emotional response. So we use breath, we use movement, we use position, we are patient. My voice gets really quiet. My hand touches very, very gentle. And that's how I do it. So it's a really beautiful process to watch it, because people are like, you're a magician, but really like all I'm doing is helping them turn down that alarm, right? Tone?
Yeah. Well, yes, and let me just say, let me just yes and you real quick. Acupuncture is so interesting because we don't really have a cultural place for it. I don't have a cultural place for it. It's not, sort of ingrained in us, the understanding of, or this type of understanding about the body, although it is anatomical and it is based in the nervous system. But, I do set the stage for calming anxiety before we ever enter treatment, much like Kathleen. And I'm not going to repeat a bunch of the things she said, but depending on severity, we will definitely get into breath and position and, where are you feeling it in your body, so on and so forth. But typically, I just listen. I tend to, it's different person by person, right? You do this job long enough and you figure out most of the time what people need. But typically, people that are experiencing a lot of anxiety, no matter what the source is, the common denominator is that it does sort of go back to the shame piece. It's like not only are they experiencing anxiety or anxiety and depression, but they're also feeling a bunch of shame around that. And I have yet to find someone that doesn't have a valid reason for feeling upset. And if I can listen and create a safe space and get them to the treatment stage, that's half the battle, because I've helped to co-create a space with them where they are listened to and where they can like have a full feeling without being judged. Now, for many people, that is only the beginning. And the beautiful thing about acupuncture is that it engages with the peripheral nervous system. People are always like, how does it work? And we can do a whole webinar on it one day, but it engages with the peripheral nervous system. So when we're in fight or flight, or when the vagus nerve is sending the message to speed up our heart rate and create slow, shallow breaths so that we can be prepared for fight or flight, I can use my tools to actually help the breath regulate, along with, lots of talk and lots of coaching and lots of gentle touch. The ear in particular, if you're a person that's come to see me or a person that's had acupuncture and you've been feeling anxious, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get some sort of auricular acupuncture. It's wonderful for engaging the parasympathetic nervous system. So the first thing I do is I do all the same things as Kathleen, and then I do a differential diagnosis, and I use acupuncture, the tool, to help get them into a place where they're feeling better. And for some people, this is actually quite uncomfortable. Like, people are not used to the sensation. So at first there are lots of questions. Why does my body feel heavy? Why do I feel tired? I felt like I was going to fall asleep. Is this okay? Am I doing it right? Because there is this sense, I often use the word gentle. I say, you're gonna feel gentle today. But when we get so used to being keyed up to feeling anxious and being in that alarm place of I have to survive, it's very hard to slow down and receive acupuncture or breath work or even PT for an hour because it just feels so far from normal. So, in addition to everything I've already said, I do a lot of educating. This is how it's going to feel. Let me answer your questions. And then, I often give homework. I give some sort of breath work. I give some sort of checking in, or I figure out a way for them to contact me if they're going to need me. And then I just explain. So many people haven't been, their anxiety hasn't been explained to them. Not the why, not the trauma or life condition or chemical imbalance or crazy world that we're living in. That's not the why I'm talking about. But the simple, like, this is how your nervous system works. It is trying to protect you. These are the ways it can change. And this is how we're going to try and get there. Most people have never been told that. And I think not knowing is the scariest part.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Not you. I was thinking the person who asked the question.
Oh, no, thank you. We have a
All right.
little.
I think we have effectively taken up enough time here.
Okay. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
I'm not.
This was wonderful.
Yeah, thanks, Kath.
Thank you to everybody who is listening to us and is joining. And we are super excited to really focus these live streams to topics that people are concerned about. And I think, you know what, we just birthed our first topic, Tone. I think next month we're going right into the nervous system. We're going to go
Let's
into
do it.
fight, flight. We're going to go into parasympathetic. This is the basis. This is the language that we all need to learn to have the conversations with us, understanding. And we're not going into nervous system anatomy. We're not doing that. We're not going into the pathways, but we're going to go into kind of understanding this response, in different tones in the nervous system, and really practical applications for that information when it comes to our health, so that anytime something happens, symptoms or otherwise, we can use that as our framework instead of using this sort of something must be bad, something must be broken. We can always start with like, oh, my nervous system is always trying to take me to a place of healing. So if I know this, what could this symptom be a reflection of? And then go from there. Like, it's the most overarching way to look at our health imaginable, and it brings in everything in terms of our feelings, the way we feel, the way we poop, the way we live.
You need 4 things to get better. You need to eat, sleep, poop, and breathe.
Amen.
That's
Happy
it.
New Year, everybody.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Thanks, Kath.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.